Congratulations not only on the great work that you have done to achieve this moment, but first of all, and mainly, I want to congratulate you on having the strength of conviction and the courage to say that you're going to be a musician, an artist, an entrepreneur in the field of music, a recording engineer, or whatever your path is, but you chose to follow the path of music. And I know from personal experience that sometimes that's not an easy choice. It's just possible that some of your parents may have encouraged you to consider an alternative. In fact, I will tell you, I have never met a graduate from McNally Smith College of Music who is here because your parents made you come here. No, you can't go to medical school. You can't major in business. Music is the life for you. But you knew what the life for you was, and I want to assure you that we've done everything that we can to help to prepare you for a life in music. And I also want to assure you and your parents that regardless of how life unfolds, a music education, in my sincere, honest belief, is the best education one can get for any path, whether it be a musical one or you might fork off into business or technology, as many of my colleagues did, and they became leaders in their field for being creative thinkers, highly disciplined, focused people. During your years here at McNally Smith, I know that you have learned to work closely and effectively with each other to create a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. You learn to listen and focus with concentration on what is going on around you. And in my life, I can tell you that there's no skill more important than learning to listen carefully to yourself so you can be self-critical and improve, to listen carefully to others so you can understand what is going on around you. You gain discipline as a musician. You practice critical thinking, self-awareness, you build self-confidence, and you stimulate creative skills and imagination. It is our hope that going forward, all of you will develop a successful practice to advance your goals, whatever they may be, as performer, composer, producer, audio professional, writer, or entrepreneur. Practicing, as you've learned here, has to be goal-directed. You don't improve simply by playing a song over and over and over again and perhaps, mindless repetition, making the same mistakes over and over again. And you raise your awareness when you're studying music intensely with the guidance of serious and dedicated music professionals, your teachers. I remember a very interesting thing happened to me. I traveled to New York City when I was, 23, 24 years old to begin study in classical guitar with a man who at that time I felt was the greatest living classical guitarist, and he's still one of the greatest today, Manuel Barrueco from Cuba, but he was teaching in New York City at the time. Fantastic master, wonderful man. And he was kind enough to receive me into his home on the Upper East Side of New York City, and I went in and I was very nervous, but I wanted to play a piece for him and learn from the master. And I was very proud of myself. I played a prelude in D minor by Johann Sebastian Bach, and I felt that it really went quite well. I was pretty nervous, but I played it, I was happy. And Manuel looked at me and said, well, it sounds like you have some musical talent, but I couldn't really tell what you were doing because there were so many mistakes. What? What do you mean? I really, really was stunned. To me, a mistake, was a pretty obvious, gross thing. You stopped, you had a memory slip, you hit wrong notes, you did something weird that was everybody would know. He was talking about an entirely different level of perfection and the art of performance, and preparing something to such a high degree that if you were nervous or you did slip up a little bit, where you were at such a high point where you slipped to, still it was as if nothing had gone awry. He was talking about complete perfection. And while I've never been able to achieve it, it was an important lesson to understand finding goals that are meaningful and that are high, and then you use your focus and your concentration and your discipline and your persistence and all the things that you have to develop as a musician to try to achieve those goals. But there's something else you have to be aware of. In addition to all those qualities of persistence and focus and so on, there's another very important quality that you have to develop. But happily, it's another one that musicians tend to develop to a large extent, or at least musicians of contemporary music. And that is the ability to improvise. The ability to, again, to listen and hear what's going on around you and be able to respond to change. You know, a lot of people misunderstand what Charles Darwin said. It was not that the strongest of the species or even the most intelligent that survives. It's the species that is most adaptable to change. So, as you are being persistent, as you are following your goals, you also need to be alert and aware and responsive and fearless in moving forward as things are changing around you. You know, this college, McNally Smith, was founded not quite 30 years ago, but it was not founded as a college of music. It was a guitar studio. A couple of guitar players got together and said, hey, we can give lessons. We'll set up a shop together. They had some students. Next thing you know, they brought in a drummer, a keyboard player, some singers, grew the school. At a certain point, they said, maybe we could offer a diploma program or some theory courses and really, kick this up a notch, not just a place for music lessons. And sure enough, they got accreditation. They began to offer diplomas and then a 2-year associate degree program. And now we're at McNally Smith College of Music on this fine Saturday morning, graduating students in 4 different areas of bachelor's degrees. And we also offer a master's degree. This is our 3rd year of doing that. It's a young school, but it's very vibrant and dynamic. And there's no better school for contemporary music in the country. But the point is, Jack McNally and Doug Smith did not set out saying, hey, let's make McNally Smith College of Music. That's a really important point to understand. They did not set out there. They had goals, they had vision, they had ideas, and they had persistence and focus and discipline, but they also responded to ever-changing reality. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you that reality today in music is changing faster than it ever has before. So remember those things as you go forward, and I hope some of it is helpful to you. In a few moments, you'll be college graduates, but you're not unprepared and you're not on your own. Since day one, we have tried here to create an environment that provides substantive, real-world experiences for you that eliminate this phony separation of college from the so-called real world. You've built a network of friends and allies and colleagues and band members and producers. You've got a network already. People that want to help you, people that care about you and encourage you. This is an important recognition today of your accomplishments, but it's not goodbye. We wish you every success and happiness that you seek, but know that you will always be a part of our wonderful community here, of artists, educators, and friends at your alma mater, McNally Smith College of Music. Now, I mentioned this school was founded, and you know the names McNally and Smith. Jack McNally's not with us today because he has a son graduating from an institution of higher education in Colorado. So, alas, I cannot introduce him to you today, but we are joined on the stage by one of the founders of this wonderful college. So please recognize the great work of Doug Smith. McNally Smith is the college of doing. We don't just talk about the business of music or being entrepreneurs. We do it. Write it, perform it, produce it, record it. And nobody does it better, and no one can impart the skills and knowledge better than the wonderful faculty that we have at this college. This is without a doubt the most wonderful collection of caring, dedicated, and talented and accomplished artists, educators, that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. So please join with me now, especially you guys, in recognizing and thanking the amazing faculty of McNally Smith College of Music. So at this time, it gives me great pleasure to welcome one of your colleagues to the stage, a young woman who has accomplished many things in her career here at McNally Smith. Our education here is really based on three pillars of educational focus: on artistry, on technology, and on entrepreneurship. All three of these things are essential for making a life in music today. But there's another important element of learning and succeeding in life, and that is being a part of your community. It's a great thing to follow your passion, but what are you giving back? What are you contributing to the world, to the community? And no one does that better than artists. Emily, during her entire career here, not only has been a model student, she's graduating summa cum laude, but she has also been every step of the way a very active contributor in the community, in volunteer programs, in educational programs that reach out into our community. And I urge you all to think about that as well as you go forward. It's not just about your personal success and following your passion. All that's great. But make a contribution as you do so. And no one has done that better than Emily. So please welcome your student speaker, Emily Villano.
Hello, everyone. We all had our journey that brought us here to McNally Smith. And I'm sure when we woke up this morning, we were all reflecting on that journey. Whether you transferred in, or you came right here out of high school, or you took time off, or you were simply ready for a change, the universe brought us all here today. We've all made decisions and connections that brought us to this room right now. We're here. We've made it. When I was reflecting on my time here at McNally Smith, I started to think about who I used to be and the decisions I made. Now I want all of you to take a second and think about who you were when you came to McNally. And now look at who you are today, here in your cap and gown. We're all here because we're supposed to be. We're here because we made good decisions and bad decisions, mistakes. That's what brought me here. It brought me to this exciting moment in my life, and suddenly the mistakes don't seem as big anymore. Also, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna cry this whole time. Just get used to it. Before I came to McNally, I spent a lot of time thinking about what everyone else wanted me to do, but I realized that any of these decisions I made brought me to this moment, and I wouldn't change any of it. We learn and we take risks and we grow, and I've come to realize that sometimes it's worth it to just jump and take the chance. And I have a strong feeling that a lot of you would agree with me. Harvey Cox said, "Not to decide is to decide," and I believe it. It's time to just jump. It's time to decide, to make different choices, to explore, and to inspire change. Yes, we're all really different, but we share at least one thing in common: our passion. No matter our art form, we put a part of our soul into everything we do. We change, we make people feel things, and we inspire. This is our calling. We will always be able to look back fondly at the skills and experiences we've gained at McNally Smith because it's been our home. But today, I think it's more important to look forward. How exciting to know that we can do whatever we want to do. We can follow our dreams. We can be the person we always wanted to be. And the greatest part about this exciting time in our life is that we're going to continue growing and changing and learning because we aren't done. This is just the beginning, a small part of our lifetime. Breathe that out and breathe it in. Breathe in the excitement, the unknown, and the support. Breathe out the fear and anxiety and sadness. Lately, I've been feeling really indecisive and anxious. And when I was nominated to be the student speaker today, it kind of put me over the edge. I was afraid to speak, afraid I'd say something stupid, afraid I'd cry, or too cheesy or irrelevant. But I made myself say yes. I breathed in that excitement and I breathed out the fear. I'm afraid to graduate today. Really afraid. I know how to do school. That's what I know. It's familiar, and change is scary. But I'm making myself say yes, and I challenge all of you to say yes with me. Today, it's that fear you have as the roller coaster is coming to the top of the hill. You're freaking out, and you're wondering why the hell you're on a roller coaster. But at the same time, you can't wait for the downhill. It's new and exciting, and it gives you a thrill, and it makes you feel something. And we're at the top of that roller coaster, and we're going to say yes. We've made it. We're graduating college today, leaving behind our small legacy here at McNally Smith and moving on to bigger things. So breathe that out and breathe it in. Remember to keep growing and changing and moving forward. Don't forget your past, but look forward to your future bravely. It's okay to be afraid, but you need to just jump and say yes. You are ready. We are ready. Congratulations, class of December 2013. I'm really, completely, and utterly proud to share this moment with you. Thank you.
Always reminded how lucky I am to work in a cool place like this. You get to come to work and hear music every day coming out of every room. It's pretty cool. Now, about 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago, I was honored to take the job as president of McNally Smith College of Music, moved to St. Paul from Boston, a city where I've spent most of my adult life, a place that is by any standard, a world-class, and gorgeous, historic, cultural city, and I really love it and missed it. But here I was in St. Paul, which I admit at the time it felt quite different than Boston. It was a little quiet, a little sleepy at night, and my wife, who, trust me, can have a very biting sense of humor, once said to me, "What is the difference between St. Paul and a graveyard?" Well, honey, I don't know what, but I bet you're going to tell me. She said, "Yeah, well, after 5 o'clock, the people in the graveyard are still there." Meaning, of course, that after 5 o'clock, you kind of get out, walk around St. Paul. There's not a lot going on. Well, 6 years can bring a lot of change. That's not the case anymore. You can go down to Lower Town and you've got all kinds of choices of fabulous dining, eateries, bistros, and in the warmer weather, which happens for at least a week or two in St. Paul, there are wonderful music festivals in Mears Park, in Rice Park. There is music, art, movie festivals, things going on around here that make St. Paul dynamic, vibrant. Someone around here appreciates youth and energy, vitality, good food and drink, arts, music, and yes, even baseball, with the excellent and highly entertaining St. Paul Saints about to relocate to Lower Town, which is going to once again kick up the whole energy and excitement of this now very cool community. And yes, we are a big part of this being a cool community. We have, 600 students running around down here, and for the most part, not causing trouble, causing excitement and good music and energy and fun stuff. This is a great place to be. Somebody who had a lot to do with all of that, and starting with bringing McNally Smith College to this current location. It was not 10 years ago, I think, this building was sitting empty. And Mayor Chris Coleman had an idea that a college could occupy this space nicely. And I wasn't around yet. I can't fill you in on all the details, but I know it was through his tireless efforts and vision that helped make it possible for McNally Smith College to relocate from Minneapolis to downtown St. Paul. And that has made a big difference for all of us. And Mayor Chris Coleman has been very much behind the transformation of this downtown area to turn it from a rather sleepy community center to something that has a tremendous amount of artistic spirit and vitality. And he may look familiar when I introduce him to you, this tall, distinguished gentleman, because you've seen him once a week. He comes here every week with his electric guitar in hand, taking the guitar lessons that the founder, Jack McNally, promised him. He said, "Chris, you get us into this building down here, and I'll give you free guitar lessons for the rest of your life." And he never forgot it. And we see him here every week, and I'm proud to introduce him to you this morning, Mayor of St. Paul, Chris Coleman. His honor.
Thank you, Harry. I would slightly disagree with your wife's characterization of St. Paul's prior condition, only slightly, but I will certainly agree with your characterization of its current condition. And clearly, McNally Smith has been an incredibly important part of the resurgence of downtown. There are a lot of colleges and universities in the city of St. Paul, I think 11 at last count. But McNally Smith will always hold a place near and dear to my heart, partly because of the role that I played as a council member bringing you over here, but because I know what all of you, all of the students and all of the graduates and all the people that come down here to partake of some of the things that are happening at this college mean to this downtown community. It's a remarkable thing that happens in this college. And I wasn't looking for just any college to fill this space. I was looking specifically to bring then music tech to downtown St. Paul, because I know what an arts community means to a city. I know what it means to have musicians walking around and folks that understand the importance of having this kind of cultural scene in a community. You can build bricks and mortar things. You can build light rail lines as we're currently building. You can bring a lot of different businesses into town. But kids, I'm 52, you're all kids. Young men and women nowadays, all are making choices about where to live, not based on where they can find a job, but first, what is the kind of community that they want to live in? Then they go out and look for a job once they've decided where they want to live. Now, a lot of people are looking at their phone app on, on the weather app to see, what is the warmest city with the nicest weather consistently. We don't win on that one. We don't win on all of the different kind of indexes. But one of the things that we are winning on in terms of the kind of community that we're building to attract young talent to the city of St. Paul is because of the arts scene, because of the cultural scene, because of new venues like the Amsterdam or some of the bars and restaurants that Harry referenced, because of Jazz Fest in Mears Park, because of crazy things like dancing in Rice Park on Thursdays during the summer. There's so much happening here that is kind of creating the type of community that we want to build, not just because I like music, though I do, but because I understand the importance of and the connectedness of arts to what you do in all of the other aspects of your cities. When I look to bring in a company, a business, one of the things that is critically important is the question that CEO asks, is this the kind of place that I'm going to be able to recruit employees to come and work at? And if we can't answer that we have a vibrant community that's fun for young people to be in, then we're going to lose those battles. And so that's why it's so critically important. I do dabble in music. Your program says I'm, I think, accomplished or something like that. I will assure you that that's not true. I play music mostly out of spite. Because I have a brother who is a professional musician, now living in Prague actually, who went to Berkeley in Boston, who has had amazing accomplishments, and like most of you, never made a dime off of money or off of music. But he's had some incredible opportunities. Just thinking back with Nelson Mandela's recent passing, in the early 90s, after Nelson Mandela was released from prison and came to the United States for the first time, there was a rally in Los Angeles where 100,000 people were in the Coliseum. And my brother got to be up on stage playing for that rally with a woman named Judy Mowat. And the funny thing about that connection was Judy Mowat was part of the I-Threes, Bob Marley's backup singers. And it was Bob Marley that got my brother ultimately into music. He had always played, and he's a right-brainer, and so he always had kind of a creative soul. But for him, the connection was he understood the political power of music and what it could do, and saw what Bob Marley meant to so many people and the power of that movement. I think it had something to do with the fact that growing up, we always had Irish music in our house. I started playing bagpipes because after the bars emptied out, my older brothers would bring all the musicians back into our basement, and we'd have a ceilidh 2 or 3 times a month in the basement. And one of the folks that showed up was a piper, and I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Not because he was wearing a dress, though that was kind of cool. But the fact of the matter is, I went, wow, what an amazingly powerful instrument. Talk about stirring your soul. Talk about that. But so all the Irish songs are political songs. They're gory as all get out, a lot of them. But the fact of the matter is they tell the story of oppression. They tell the story of the fight against that oppression, just as so much of Bob Marley's songs and so much of the things that moved my brother. So it was that connection between music, not just to kind of entertain, but music to move people, to power a revolution, to power change in your community that he understood. And so I say I do it out of spite, but see, he was a professional musician, and 8 or so years ago when I decided I wanted to learn how to play the guitar, he laughed at me. He said, oh my God, if I had a dime for every adult that said that they were going to pick up an instrument and learn how to play it, I'd be a rich man. And so just to prove him wrong, I have stuck with this, and I have practiced, and I have dragged that guitar, feeling like I'm about 10 years old going to guitar lessons, being driven by mom, off to the lessons. But the fact of the matter is, whatever your motivation is for playing, for being part of this, it is the fact that you're doing it. It is the fact that you're out there. The reality of it is there are so many interesting things that music brings. in so many ways that you may not even know how your music is impacting people. You may not know what it is that you have done that has stirred the souls or the minds or generations of people. You probably know the story of Rodriguez, in that incredibly powerful story of a man who in the early 70s built or made a couple of records. Everybody, all the critics raved about him, thought it was some of the best music they'd ever heard, just assumed that this guy was going to be a superstar one day, and he never took off. He never kind of went where he wanted to go. So for 30 years, he worked as a construction or demolition worker in Detroit, not knowing that while he was demolishing buildings in Detroit, his music was powering a revolution in South Africa, particularly for white South Africans that were fighting against apartheid. And he was the music of a generation of young South Africans that he didn't even know about, that had all heard the stories that he had died in an accident, that he had committed suicide on stage. I mean, the stories, the legends about what had happened to this man were amazing. So finally, one day, somebody decided to go find out what was the true story of what happened to Rodriguez. And they not only found out that none of the legends were true, but that he was still alive, living in Detroit. And he got to go back decades after he had cut those albums, where he had been a star, and almost every household had one of his records in it. He didn't know that, but his music had power. His music had influence well beyond what he could ever have imagined that it was. You're artists, and no matter what you do in your life, you will always have that with you. I was telling Emily she's destined to be my future city attorney, because my city attorney was an opera singer. And she went through and got a music degree from the University of Minnesota. And so then when that didn't quite pan out the way, there's not a huge call for opera singing in the city of St. Paul or in the state of Minnesota, but she went to law school. But she's still an artist. She's still a singer. She still has that piece with her. And you're also dreamers. You have to be dreamers. And it's okay. We're taught to be practical, as your president was saying earlier. Parents want you to be practical, and practical is fun. Practical is fine. It's safe. It rarely makes history. Dreaming makes history. When you think about the dreamers that have made history, they're all around, and the examples continue to be out there. It was a dreamer that stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1963 and said, "I have a dream that one day we'll be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character." It was a dreamer that grew up a son of a single mom, believing that he could become president, even though his skin color was different than everybody else that had ever been elected president. Recently, a dreamer who worked in a male-dominated industry in one of the world's largest corporations grew up to become a president of GM, the first female president of a large U.S. auto manufacturer. And it was a dreamer in Nelson Mandela, who, even though he was sentenced to 27 years or to life in prison and spent 27 years in a 6x8 cell, believed and dreamed and continued to hold out hope that he would draw his last breath in a country that had taken off the shackle of the hateful practice of apartheid. No matter what you do, continue with your dreams. No matter what you do, pursue your passions. Pursue it, but never forget that you are musicians, you're artists, you're performers. You have the power to stir people's imaginations. You now have the education to be successful at that. I hear the stories of the 4 Adams. I know there's an Adam graduating today, so apparently that's a lucky name, graduating from McNally Smith. We have Adams that have really distinguished themselves in the music business, traveling around the country with big groups, doing amazing work. But whether your name is Adam or Emily or anything else, you have the skill sets now that you need to take out into the community and move the soul of a community. Bricks and mortars are great, light rail lines are great, but community has to have soul. You're our soul. In whatever city that you end up in, whatever place that you end up, whatever line of work that you end up, that soul, bring it to your job, bring it to your place, bring it to your families, and pay it forward. It's a wonderful gift. It's great to see you here today, graduating. Congratulations. Best of luck to you in your future. Thank you.
Well, now for the part of the program we've been waiting for, the awarding of the degrees and diplomas. I would like to invite Susan Bresney, Senior Director of Student Affairs, to announce the graduates as we begin the awarding of the degrees and diplomas.
May I present Jeff Bailey, Bass Department Head. For our first graduate, Rory M. Mitchell, Associate of Applied Science in Bass Performance. May I present Joe Elliott, Guitar Department Head. Eric Onnested, Associate of Applied Science in Guitar Performance. Tanner Jones, Bachelor of Music in Guitar Performance. Tony J. Dolter, Bachelor of Music in Guitar Performance. Antonio Monteroso Garcia, Bachelor of Music in Guitar Performance, magna cum laude. May I present Charlie Christensen, Voice Department Head. Shayna Berg, Master of Music and Vocal Performance. She's supposed to have a hood. We'll get the hood. Garrison Rux Laborde, Bachelor of Music and Vocal Performance. Rachel Sarah Roberts, Bachelor of Music and Vocal Performance. Nicole Toddy, Associate of Applied Science and Vocal Performance. Miss Emily Villano, Bachelor of Music and Vocal Performance, summa cum laude. May I present Sean Turner, Keyboard Department Head. Jenna Marie Rose Johnston, Diploma in Keyboard Performance. Joel Thielman, Bachelor of Music and Keyboard Performance, cum laude. May I present Gordy Knudsen, Percussion Department Head. Sam Flock, Bachelor of Music, Percussion. Doug Wagaspak, Bachelor of Arts in Music Production, Percussion. Sorry. May I present Dave Olson, Music Business Department Head. Jaroslav Kresa, Bachelor of Arts in Music Business. Lyric McCreary, Associate of Applied Science in Music Business. Jolene O'Rourke, Bachelor of Arts in Music Business. Sean Sturgis, Bachelor of Arts in Music Business, magna cum laude. May I present Christopher Blood, Production Department Head. Travis Cart, Associate of Applied Science in Recording Technology. Joseph Kimple, Bachelor of Science in Music Production and Associate of Applied Science in Recording Technology. Alexander Caldwell King, Bachelor of Science in Music Production. Cody Sabursky, Associate of Applied Science in Recording Technology. Bryce Tuitt, Associate of Applied Science in Music Production. Jackson Wyrock, Associate of Applied Science in Music Production. May I present Jay Allen, Composition Assistant Department Head. Timothy John Barrich, Bachelor of Music in Composition and Songwriting. Levi Brown, Bachelor of Music in Composition and Songwriting, and Associate of Applied Science in Music Production, cum laude. Christopher G. Cote, Bachelor of Music in Composition and Songwriting. Alan Scott Dupois, Bachelor of Music in Composition and Songwriting. David Harry, Bachelor of Music in Composition and Songwriting, magna cum laude. Eric Andrew Mortensen, Bachelor of Music in Composition and Songwriting. Madeline Michelle Frischman Snyder, Bachelor of Music in Composition and Songwriting, cum laude. At this time, I would like to actually ask Charlie Christensen back to the stage to hood Shayna Berg. So let me introduce Shayna Berg, our Master of Music and Vocal Performance, Shayna Berg. Thank you.
Graduates, please stand. On behalf of the faculty and the Board of Directors of McNally Smith College of Music, I confer upon each of you who has completed the necessary coursework and fulfilled all the requirements the degree of Master of Music, Bachelor of Music, Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Associate Applied Science, or a diploma with all the honors and privileges thereto. Congratulations.